All right, so today we have a great lineup for you. We have KJ Garner from Bike Fun, which is out of Nashville, Tennessee. KJ is a LCI and has used her certification to build a business called Bike Fun. So we'll hear all about KJ's Bike Fun organization and what she's doing with her certification. We also have Tim Hahn from the city of Fort Collins, who works primarily with Bike Fort Collins and LCIs in the region and the Safe Routes to School program. And then we also have Jina Doyle from American Specialty Insurance that keeps us running and keeps our LCIs covered by insurance. So a very essential product for insurance for LCIs. So Gina's here to talk a little bit and to be available to answer questions. So first, I'm going to speak about 15-20 minutes, give you an update on smart cycling and what's been happening. Some of this information might be old. Maybe if you keep up at the hub and League newsletter, you might know some of this. And then I think I have some new information for all of you that is kind of hot off the press these days. Okay, oh, there's the lineup or the what I'm going to be going over. Okay, so so this is the biggest addition that we have, and I'm glad Riley is back in the room for this, because last year in 2022 we added support to the smart cycling program by hiring, bringing Riley on. Riley was doing summit stuff last year, and we kept Riley on and moved some of their responsibilities to be the smart cycling program. So Riley has been a big help to me in keeping the smart cycling program strong and flourishing. Riley does an amazing work with our LCI seminars, answering education at Bike League. And so that for me was the biggest highlight and addition to the smart cycling program last year. So there's Riley. give Riley a big round. Okay. So other parts, all our curriculum. Well, of course, we have a smart cycling manual, which breaks all the education down into basics, advanced, and intermediate. We have the youth manual, which came out a couple years ago. We have the quick guides. We have bicycle friendly driver. We have a smart cycling tips for older adults, which is online and can be presented to an in-person group by downloading the slides to the LCI portal. We have our video library. We now have our learning center, which is getting a lot of use. And we have, up until just recently, we have this old group riding manual, and I'll talk more about that, the new group riding manual soon. So there's our full suite of curriculum. What we added in 2022 was we added bicycle friendly driver online to the learning center. It's been getting a lot of use. And we added to our video library 13 new videos. They were created in Spanish and English. 7 of them are targeted for cycling education, for on-bike riding, and then 6 of them are drivers. So it complements our bicycle-friendly driver training. It's pretty much the basis of the bicycle-friendly driver training on our learning center. The other big highlight for 2022 was we expanded our LCI insurance to include coverage when there are class 2 e-bikes in your class. Before class 2 bikes weren't covered when you were teaching smart cycling classes. Now we are. We worked quite extensively with American Specialty and added that the coverage to include when class 2 e-bikes are in your classes.
Great move.
Yes, great move. And it's led to a lot of great developments, which I'll talk about in a little bit. 2022 also we saw more BIPOC scholarships delivered through our LCI seminar program. Through the course of the scholarship offering, we had 84 scholarships delivered. That was basically middle of 2020 to the middle of 2022. In 2021, we hosted 4 BIPOC focused seminars. In 2022, we offered 3 BIPOC focused seminars. Those were held. One was in Atlanta, one was in Minneapolis, and one was Pittsburgh. And how those cities were chosen was Quality Bicycle Products funded the program, and they wanted to see their kind of where their warehouse distribution centers were with more BIPOC LCI. So we focused our energy kind of in those areas, which were great. Atlanta was the first one, and then Minneapolis and Pittsburgh. So you can see those folks in the picture. That was in Atlanta. Great group of LCIs. And what this did, you can see, if you can, it's kind of small, but the blue, this was basically a white demographic that we had in our seminars, BIPOC communities. And then as we just started distributing the scholarship in 2020, we saw a little bit more equality there. So we were happy to see more LCIs who are people of color becoming certified. And this was thanks to Quality Bicycle Products and the Be Good Foundation. Okay, the other thing that happened in 2022 was we added 3 new coaches. We added Dan Hernandez, who is out in Oakland, California. He is with Bike East Bay. He's our second bilingual coach, so he can instruct in Spanish and English. And he's a national coach. We also added Jay Snyder through the Jeff Roth Cycling Foundation down in Tennessee. Jay is an organizational coach, so that means Jay primarily teaches through the Jeff Roth Cycling Foundation. They have committed to doing 1 to 2 seminars a year, so it makes sense for them to have their own coach down there. And then we added, right at the end of 2022, we added Lita Highsmith, who is in Connecticut. And Lita is our first African-American female coach, and she will be coaching throughout the US. Okay, so anticipated curriculum additions and other new things. I'll move on to that. So we have a new group riding safety skills manual, and I brought copies for people to just take a look at if you want to see. We did an instructor manual and a student manual. So you guys can pass these around, take a look. There's a digital copy available for LCIs in the LCI portal. And then if you want a hard copy, you can buy it online. It's got some diagrams in it, learning objectives, and a ride leader checklist. That was something that we had heard a lot of LCIs wanted, was a ride leader checklist. So we added that as well. Coming up in 2023, we have some exciting partnerships that we've forged just in the first quarter of 2023. we're going to be working with People for Bikes on an e-bike specific curriculum. And that will be through a video series. We're doing some quizzes, and then we're going to put all of that in our learning center to make that available for free for everyone who wants to learn online. And the plan will be to then eventually move to a second phase of the curriculum where we'll have an on-bike curriculum as well, but probably that will come in 2024. So for 2023, we're going to be looking at these video series and quizzes. So that's an exciting partnership that we're starting upon. We'll be working with them at they host a conference, an e-bike specific conference, Shift is called, and we'll be doing some stuff with them in Bentonville in October. And then we also just kind of signed agreement with Woom Bikes. It's a balance bike company, and they're helping us do a general, it's not Woom specific, but it's a general learn to ride program for youth and adults. And so we'll make a video of learning to ride, an instructor manual, and then a parent caregiver one pager. So exciting stuff. And Bike New York is also part of that project. And then finally, we're adding some more comprehensive material to the bike-friendly driver training to include more information for large vehicle drivers, truck drivers, and just putting some real kind of information and images and instruction for those larger vehicles. We see this as an opportunity for city vehicle fleet drivers to really become more knowledgeable about sharing the road with people on bikes. The funding is through Dan Langenkamp. We have an ask at the summit about driver safety for trucks and side guards. So that comes through a tragic loss of his wife. So we want to make sure to honor his wife's life with that information. And then we're going to be changing our communication platform. We have many of you know the Hub. Who's ever posted anything on the Hub before? Okay, good. Jim, you have to.
I thought you said never.
Who has posted on the Hub? Who has posted on the Hub? Okay, thank you for participating in the Hub. It's been a couple of years. Well, it's been probably 5 or 6 years since we've had the Hub. It's gone well, but we were paying a lot of money for that platform, and we weren't really seeing the return on participation there. So we decided to move off the Hub. LCIs were definitely the most active group on the Hub. We had it available to other groups like citywide advocates, statewide advocates. LCIs definitely use the Hub the most. But we decided, why don't we try and go to a Google group format? And boy, as soon as I open the doors to that Google group, it's like everyone's got something to say, which is good. I love it. But it makes me think, why didn't we do this sooner? So goodbye to the Hub. It's still up and running. You can still get on there and access a conversation, but it will be going away probably this summer. And I'll give everyone plenty of notice. But if you're going to post something these days, post it on Google Groups, because that's where the conversation's happening. We'll be continuing with LCI quarterly updates. We do that through MailChimp, which goes to, it's a newsletter. And I want to tell you, I'm very proud of our LCI group because we get an open rate of about 60% every time, which like makes me so proud of the LCIs and you wanting information and knowing what's going on. Just to give you a comparison, the typical e-news we send out really only has about a 30% open rate. So LCIs are eager for information. So thank you for just checking it out. You can just scroll through it, see what's new. Not a whole lot of action items there, but a lot of great information. And then we'll continue to do LCI monthly spotlights as we've been doing. We're going on our 3rd year of LCI monthly spotlights, and I encourage you to nominate LCIs. You can nominate yourself. We've seen that happen. I'm fine with that. And let us know what's going on. Anyone who is spotlighted gets a free t-shirt from the league. Gets on our website and on our in our blog and e-news. Okay, so I think if there's any questions specific to my content, what I presented, anybody have any questions right off the bat, Jim?
It may come up later with the insurance woman, but the class 2s is extended to clubs or none?
No, it's not yet. So if you have the
Alison,
question was, yeah.
It actually is extended to class. It's all, there's no class 2 restriction on the policy for clubs or LCIs. And that started in, the clubs began in 2023.
Oh, okay. Gosh, Jina, I'm glad you're here. All right, well, we can talk about that, which I'm sure she's gonna have more information on that.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good news.
Any other?
Allison,
Yeah.
sorry, we have a message. I don't know. I'm just jumping in here. We have a request in the chat to resend the Google link to folks.
Oh, so for the Google groups?
Yep, for the Google chat group.
I will, so there has been a couple questions about that. It's a closed group, which means I can invite you, but it has to go to your email address. And the email address it goes to is what you have registered with your LCI account with us. So if Deborah has, Deborah@gmail.com, it's going to go to that email address. What I've been hearing is that in this day and age, we all operate with multiple email addresses. So if you have an account forwarding to another account and you get this email and you try and access the invitation, it will give you an error because you're trying to access it with the email that it's not inviting. So you have to, it takes a little bit of, I don't know, just awareness of what email address you have associated with the league and your LCI number or your LCI account, so that you can accept the invitation through that email. If there's another email you want to use, I've done that multiple times, just added somebody's other email. I'm happy to do that. It just takes a couple clicks from me and I can do that, or Riley can do that too. But it seems like it's going well. We have nearly 1,000 people already on there and accepting the invitation and everything. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, Riley's got it.
QVP sponsor, will QVP be sponsoring BIPOC seminars in 2020?
Yeah, we hope so. We're still working on that with them. So the jury is still out. So hopefully we'll have some good news on that. we're also seeking additional funding from the Be Good Foundation to continue the scholarship program on that side of things. Maybe we do any fun questions at the end. How about that? Because so we have KJ and Tim and Gina still to speak, and I want them to have plenty of time. So I'm going to introduce KJ and Tim Hahn and Gina Doyle. So KJ is going to speak first, and then Tim, and then Gina. Let's see. I feel like I did introduce you already, right? So maybe I could just hand it over. And KJ, you can share your screen.
Okay, let me get this going. And let's pop this in here. Pop it into slideshow mode. Fantastic. So hi, my name is KJ Garner. I'm in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee. Things are going well for me this morning. I hope you all are having a good day so far. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about me and a little bit about Bike Fun, which is the nonprofit organization that I created and help run here that serves Middle Tennessee. I like to start off with an icebreaker. This is what I like to ask people: who taught you how to ride? Don't have to answer it, just think about it. Think also about, do you remember really learning the mechanisms of riding from your parents? Did you learn it from riding with your friends? Or did you learn it riding in a different circumstance? There's a lot of different ways to learn, and it doesn't always matter who taught you first. So just a little bit about me in general. This is a picture of me and my mom. You can see that she has struggled with the parental dilemma of finding the bike that fits or the bike that you grow into. I think I'm about 4 in that picture. So I am all of these things, leading with a bicycle rider. I like to connect people to resources they need. Invariably, if you have a question, I can find the answer or find someone who knows the answer. I also like to describe myself as a proud Tar Heel, graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, a sister in St. Anthony Hall, a co-ed fraternity. I'm a redhead and I'm a loudmouth too. So how did I get here, right? So, you know, people that teach bicycle skills, like, you don't really go to school for that. I mean, I think that you can in a physical education type of program or movement and wellness, but really it's kind of a weird journey to get where we are. So I started off in the IT world, jumped to freelance photography for a while, managed a frame shop. That was cool. Did website and data and graphic design, graduated to project manager, and then I went into the outdoor retail industry. That was a very interesting detour, and one I think that has kept me on this current path. If you ever get the chance to work retail, it's like going back to school for a graduate degree in dealing with humanity. Then I went to become a bike shop service manager. And then from that, we went on to found Bike Fun. And here I am as the board president and a bicycle skills instructor. So who is Bike Fun? What is Bike Fun? What do we do? Our official mission is to create joyful riders in Middle Tennessee through classes, workshops, rides, and one-on-one lessons. The one-on-one lessons component is what makes us unique. There are very few organizations that have the capacity to do one-on-one lessons in a way that helps to remove shame and trauma from not knowing how to ride. Whether you are 5 or 85, it doesn't matter how you got here. I'm just so glad that you're here, and I'm glad to be able to help you on your bicycle journey. Our offerings are typically geared towards supporting new and returning riders. We do invite people who've been riding for a long time on our rides with us or to our classes, but it's with the understanding that we're there to support people who have not yet become comfortable or confident in their riding abilities. So Bike Fun evolved quite a bit. I started out in 2016 after I got my LCI certificate as a regular S Corp, regular business, had a handful of students at that time. We didn't have any classes that were set up, and it was just me as the instructor. Then we jumped to 2017. We had a few more students. I worked at REI. That was my outdoor retail industry gig. And that was hard to try and get Bike Fun going while still working more or less full time at a very exhausting job. We skip ahead a few years. We relaunched as a 501c3. Now take note of that date, that year. That was a really difficult year to start out as a nonprofit. We were essentially sold on the idea that, hey, you can become a nonprofit and get all of these grants. But much like having an entry-level job position listed with 5 years of experience required, there were a lot of foundations that aren't going to give you money straight off the bat. They want to see that you're established and that you can serve your community. So we've been waiting a few years for that. We have 2022 last year. That was our first full year of operation. We had another instructor that came on board, Ashley Wilson, also an LCI. She's instrumental in relieving some of the pressure on me as a solo instructor. And look at that number. We jumped from 2017 with about 25 students to 2022 with 350. That's with individual and small group classes. I only worked for half a year at REI, so I was able to focus May onward into creating this larger program. This year, let's go. 450 students. We're going to have 2 more instructors. I hope. We finished our interview rounds and are going to be in the process of getting people on board by mid-April. So it's been a lot. We were fortunate. If any of you are interested in forming a nonprofit, you might check with your local law schools. We were fortunate to partner with the Vanderbilt Turner Community Family Clinic that allowed their third year law students to create all of our paperwork and file it pro bono. All we had to pay for was the IRS filing. That's several $1,000s worth of work. So think of that as a possible route if you're considering forming a nonprofit. And then I wanted to just say, people ask me, well, why did you become an LCI? Why was that? It's a long story, but the short version is that if you can complete something that proves that you know something, you become a more reliable source to people. They tend to trust you. And getting that trust is typically a difficult thing if you just show up and say, well, believe me, I can show you how to do this. We connect with each other in a broader way through our, well, RIP the hub, but through our other formats of sharing information, teaching materials and methods, and that big one, that insurance. Your third parties are definitely going to want to know, hey, do you have coverage for this? And that's been instrumental in forming our community partnerships as a nonprofit. So we've got community connections with our local advocacy groups, with our friends of the parks, with commercial entities like B-Cycle. I will say that typically bike shops are a fantastic way to get your information out there, but bike shops are there for their bottom line most of the time. So I wouldn't expect much back from them. But if you are using them as a resource for your students and your other community connections as well, that relationship can be more reciprocal than not. Our trends for 2020 to 2023, we've noticed that our students have returned for refreshers or more learning. Our community partners have us as a trusted resource. So you need to have a question answered about bicycle riding. Perhaps you'd like to know about how to advocate for bicycle lanes. Why don't you talk to someone over at Bike Fun? They can get you sorted out. Our past partners have forwarded us on to new partners, and we have a lot of word of mouth. A lot of people think, I'll never learn how to ride a bike, and they find out that they can through Bike Fun. So these are our classes, rides, and events that we have in 2023. Keep in mind, I'm doing this basically on my own with a board of directors, volunteers, and soon to be 2 new instructors. So we have our Learn to Ride series starting from age 5 and on up to adult with our community partner Walk Bike Nashville. And then with the series, we want people to feel comfortable getting started, but then also to feel comfortable learning more. It's difficult in a city like Nashville, where there's very little enthusiasm for sharing space with bicycle riders and walkers on a government level, to say, hey, you've learned to ride a bike, congratulations, good luck, get out there. We want to make sure that they've got their information, their confidence, and their knowledge. We want them out there and armed with all of the things that can help them succeed. Sometimes I might say, well, why don't you try riding in another city? Use bike share when you go out and travel out of town. That will help get them to be more comfortable here as well. So our ride series, we've got free events. Our bicycle festival is coming up in April. It's going to be on April 29th. If anyone is in the area, please come by. We've got the bicycle revivals. Those we only hold at churches, because here at Bike Fun, we like situational irony. And so having a revival in a church just seems perfect. Those are held in May and September. One way to get your bike ready to ride, and the other way to get your bike ready to sleep if you don't care for winter riding. And then we have a community market bicycle repair that we're going to start offering in June. Ride series, we've got our FTW only pedal forward and our Friends of Shelby Park pedal in the park. Those are geared again towards new and returning riders, in getting them the confidence to ride in a group and ride farther perhaps than they have before. We have needs. Everybody's got needs. Nonprofits have a lot of needs. We're going to get paid instructors this year. That's awesome. We do need more volunteers. We need a better pipeline of board members. I'm always interested in finding out more. How do we cultivate those relationships? We need storage space. I have a marriage I'd like to preserve, and a husband that likes motorcycles, and 27 bicycles that I'm getting donated to Bike Fun. Any ideas on storage space in Nashville? Call me. We need, of course, more steady funding sources, as does all nonprofit entities, as far as I can tell. And in this demographic slide, you can see we have a need of more diversity of our student base. This is from our one-on-one sessions. We're working on keeping better track and tabs on our classes this year, but we would like to be reaching more of Nashville, not just one slice of Nashville. So I have some sayings, and you all probably do too, when you teach people how to ride. These are some of them. I really like the one where I instruct the student to close their eyes. They keep looking at the ground. I say, close your eyes. And they say, okay. And they do. And I ask them, are you still here? And they say, yes, I'm still here. I said, great. Do you have to look at yourself to know that you're there all the time? And they say, no. I said, great. Apply that to your bicycle riding. And of course, encouragement is often basically what somebody needs to figure out that next step, that next level. And of course, don't forget, bikes are fun. That's it. Bikes are fun. I get burnout sometimes. I get irritated. I get frustrated. But at the end of the day, you just have to get out there and ride. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your friends. You know, take care of your environment. Take care of your community, and just have a blast. So, and yes, I have ridden in it, and it was awesome. So that's basically what Bike Fun is about. And of course, if you're ever in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, please feel free to give us a holler, drop us a line. If you got something to share, you want to go for a ride, let's go. I'll tell you all the best places to go. Get a beer, get a coffee, and get an ice cream. So thanks so much.
Thanks, KJ. Yay. Okay, so now we're going to go on to, well, are there any questions for KJ? I saw there were some in the chat, and I think Ashley was on and was answering some. Riley, are there any other questions that weren't answered?
There's a couple. Colin, KJ's needs are similar to lots of other nonprofits. Are the archives from the Alliance for Walking and Biking still available? I suspect there are a lot of resources in there.
Oh, that's a question. That's a good question. About the archives for Alliance for Walking and Biking. I don't think those are still available. Jim Barras?
So could I ask a question, or I need to write it down?
Well, go ahead, you can answer.
Since I raised my hand.
I'll repeat it for people.
I wasn't really clear that a learn to bike session was covered by our insurance. I usually tell the LCIs that they need to cover the need to know. And the need to know isn't really part of riding and learning to ride a bike, but tell me how that works.
So that's a good question. We do say to be covered under the league's insurance, you need to teach the need to know. And the need to know is not very complex. It's ride predictably, ride ready. I think everyone knows the 5, 6 points of the need to know. So as long as those are being taught in some way, you're covered. So I don't think it's,
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
did everybody hear that question? It was regarding the teaching the need to knows during a class. As like, that's the bare minimum that you need to teach when to be covered under the LCI insurance. And that can be done it can be done in for a child, just simplify them, and can be done very simply for someone who's just learning to ride a bike.
Alison, we lost a video.
On me? This, I think, went to sleep.
Good. The lights are.
The lights are off now. Well, okay, why don't we have Tim go next?
All right, give me a minute to reconfigure here.
Okay, sorry, it was a little abrupt, Tim. Yeah,
No, that's okay.
I lost my video, so, but everyone can see the gallery. There's still some.
That's great. Well, first, good afternoon, everyone. And I want to thank the league and Alison for inviting me to speak here. To all the other LCIs here across the nation, and to new ones. Congratulations if you're a new LCI. And I have to admit, compared to KJ, my job is a lot easier, it sounds, and a lot more singularly focused. And what I do is I work for Safe Routes to School here at Fort Collins, and my key demographic are kids like this. So technically I work for Bike Fort Collins, which is one of the major Fort Collins bike advocacy nonprofits here. And Bike Fort Collins, we're contracted by the city to provide all the instruction for Safe Routes to School, which when I came on board was already a very robust, very successful program. Safe Routes here in Fort Collins, we educate nearly 7,000 students every year throughout the city. And we do that kindergarten through 12th grade. And so I happen to find myself in a place where I get to be involved with a lot of great bicycle education for all these kids. Well, my understanding is that some of you that are here are either new LCIs or have an LCI and maybe are not utilizing it. So I just want to talk to you today about how I got my LCI and give you some inspiration or ideas on how you can use this newly acquired certification as a bicycle educator and a leader. Sort of in that way, I'm much like you, that I got my LCI only recently, back in October of 2021. And I kind of came onto it slightly by accident. Also, well, I had a lifetime of experience that brought me to where I am now. But it's you can say I sort of manifested this LCI thing, if you believe in that sort of thing. Like KJ, I actually had a career in the cycling industry that spanned 25 years. And and it was in bicycle retail and in coaching and racing and things like that. And I didn't even know Safe Routes to School existed. I also always knew about the League of American Cyclists, or it was actually law when I started way back then. And but I was really never a part of it or a member. But there are two things that happened that that changed my life. One was I had kids, and that started at public school about 4 years ago. And then another was I met a neighbor of mine who's the city side director of the Safe Routes to School program here in Fort Collins. On that ride, I learned a lot about the Safe Routes program, and I realized that it was an organization that I'd been sort of dreaming about or starting for the better part of a decade. I had been doing a lot of things in the outdoor industry, but I wanted to figure out how I could utilize all the skills I'd learned through my life as an outdoor educator, and really kind of contribute back to my community in the sort of the most fundamental way. At the same time, I learned about Fort Collins has a bicycle ambassador program that teaches local adults and kids how to ride and ride smarter. So I applied to both the bicycle ambassador program and Safe Routes as an instructor. And then I later learned that I needed to get an LCI in order to sort of have leadership positions in both of those organizations. In order to be a ride leader for Safe Routes to School here in Fort Collins, you need to have an LCI. It fulfills the requirements of our insurance provider, and also for the City of Fort Collins School District. And we, in fact, Safe Routes to School and Bike Fort Collins, we employ 20 instructors, and it's a paid position when you're an instructor for Safe Routes here. And we also, we provide scholarships for partial and full for anywhere from 2 to 6 people every year to get their LCIs. And so I got my LCI and then found myself being able to be the leader and teach kids like this how to ride better. Fort Collins is, one of our city's mottos is to be sort of the Amsterdam or Copenhagen of the United States. And if you've ever visited Fort Collins, the bicycle infrastructure here is incredible, and constantly improving. And so what I realized was that we could raise complete generations year after year of kids that will grow up here and then become residents of Fort Collins and really embrace cycling. And so that's really where I find my passion in it, is being able to teach all of these kids, every elementary school in all of Fort Collins, all the middle schools, and even kids in high school too, how to really embrace and ride bikes. So in that respect, there are programs like this all over the country. There's over 400 Safe Routes programs throughout the United States, so that, if you have an LCI, you might be able to find one of these and join one. And then at a recent Safe Routes conference, I learned of these much smaller programs all across the country, where a region that might have, instead of, we have this robust program here, but instead they're a small program run by just 1 or 2 people, where they take a small group of kids and ride them to school. And so you can start things like that anywhere you want. A little bit later on, I'll throw up into the chat a bunch of links that you could use that are resources both nationally and locally if you're in Fort Collins, where you can get guides on how to start your own Safe Routes program. and so, yeah, I mean, that was really sort of where my, how I came to be here at a forum like this. Just teaching these, kids. It's one of the most fulfilling things, as some of you I know, of seeing a kid who really discovers cycling, or teaching kids how to ride for the very, very first time throughout your community. So that's kind of how I got here, and it's where I think I'll be for quite a long time.
Great. Thanks, Tim. So before I move on to Jina, are there any questions for Tim?
Yeah, I put them in that shared doc. You want to read them or?
You can go ahead, right? Because if I switch, then.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so David asking, I don't think that the 5 need to know points can be addressed to 5-year-olds who are not even succeeding at balance bike skills. And speaking to their parents about those issues suffice. We could have a handout that addresses those.
Yeah, that is a way of approaching it, going about it. And in our youth skills packet that we have available for LCIs to purchase on our store, one of the things that comes with it is the quick guide, and we suggest that the quick guide go to the parents, because in the quick guide are the need to knows, and I think that's a helpful resource. I think as an instructor, you always see the value of teaching the parents as well as the child, because a kid might not be absorbing everything there, and it takes that emphasis at home to have it kind of stick, and the role modeling from the parent. Any other questions for Tim?
Yeah, and it's just being asked that you repeat them so that people virtually can hear them, like they can't hear me.
Oh, the question.
Yeah.
The question was about informing the parents of the youth learning to ride or improving their skills. Does that constitute teaching the need to knows? And yes, it does. The child is enrolled in the class because the parent is giving permission, right? That minor guardianship role. So teaching the parent is comparable to teaching the child as well. Of course, there's differences, but yeah.
Right. And I could address that a little bit. So yeah.
Thanks, Tim.
So we work through the school district. One of the great things that one of the great partnerships we have here in Fort Collins is that the city on pretty much every level, and then more importantly, I guess, in a way, the school district on every level supports safe routes to schools. And so when we go into a school and when we are first setting into a school, the school sends out a special permission slip to all parents that describes the program that the kids are going to do, and then the parents sign off on a permission slip allowing their kids to do that. And we get 99.9% participation. It's extremely rare when a parent doesn't allow their kid to participate in that. And one nice aspect about the program here is that kids, if they're staying in school from K through 12, they usually see us at least 3 or sometimes even 4 times during their K through 12th grade education. They'll see us once or sometimes twice in elementary school, then in middle school, then again in high school. And so they get higher and higher levels and more involved messaging, which includes all league messaging from the beginning. But yes, then they comprehend it better and better. So if they get it in 2nd grade, sure, they some of it you'll tell it to them and it might go over their head. But then when they get it in 5th grade, you see that these kids really start to understand that. And then further along, we get these middle school riders who in Fort Collins, middle schoolers are kind of riding all over town independently. So that's one of the great things about our program.
Mhm. I think there was a follow-up question from David Levenger.
Is the goal to have Fort Collins be the Amsterdam of the US? City of Fort Collins goal or a bike Fort Collins goal?
Did you hear that? The question was, is the goal of having Fort Collins be the Amsterdam of the US a City of Fort Collins goal, or is it a bike Fort Collins goal, or is it both?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, again, it's really a unique environment here in Fort Collins in that really the city, all the way from the mayor, city council, and all the divisions of the city are very pro cycling. And so it's really citywide, whether you're dealing with the city itself or Bike Fort Collins or any of the nonprofits here that operate here. There is not, everybody works together, everybody has the same goal. And so sometimes, for instance, when the city is trying to figure out how to spend money for infrastructure, they ask Safe Routes, which are technically Bike Fort Collins employees, on where they need to rebuild a new intersection. So it's really from top to bottom and everywhere you can, and every way you can measure it, a goal for all departments and all aspects of Fort Collins.
Yeah, I've been to Fort Collins. I've ridden a bike there. It's really great. So keep up the good work.
Thanks. Yeah, and I'll give an example. So like actually right near my neighborhood, there was a street crossing across a 4-lane road, and it was unsafe for middle schoolers who are going there, riding independently on their own, and then also on the opposite side of that, an elementary school, kids going with their parents. So it was kind of led by Safe Routes, but then of course adopted by the city, so that they rebuilt that intersection, and that was proposed several years ago, and then just got completed last year. So it's all these different organizations and entities in Fort Collins, whether it's government level or nonprofit level, are kind of all work together and have the same goal.
And then
Deborah has a question.
So my question was, is there like, since you're doing it with the school district, is there like a progression of courses or just learn to ride? Do they go through steps of progress, like all the way to going to independent riding, or how does that go?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So
Do you want me to repeat that, Tim? Or I guess if
no,
you
I did
heard
hear
it
it.
online.
Yeah, I heard it. So our program is a progression. So, we teach elementary school students the very basics. In fact, when we started in elementary school in kindergarten, we're actually walking and riding bikes. So we teach them how to be better pedestrians. But then at the elementary school, and the slide right there is at an elementary school that you're looking at now, where we set up a course and start teaching them the fundamentals. A lot of kids at the 3rd, 4th, and definitely 5th grade level are actually riding bikes to and from school, sometimes even without parental supervision. So we start, it's tailored for the grade level so that they can become more independent riders. At the elementary school level, there's only about 2 or 3 elementary schools where we take them off campus, but those are the kind of the most bicycle forward elementary schools where we take them on off-campus field trips. At the middle school level, we're teaching them full, rules of the road. All of the cycling is done in and around the neighborhood of the school itself, and then on a bike field trip. So we teach them to be more independent. It's not uncommon to see, a group of 3, 4, 5, even 10 middle school kids riding anywhere in the city, by themselves. So we want to really, we gear the middle school level to have them become more independent cyclists. And then at the high school level, of course, we're actually reintroducing them to cycling in some cases if they're juniors and seniors. But then we also teach them bicycle-friendly driver. And one of my goals, and it's a goal of a lot of people in Fort Collins at different levels, but as a relatively new leader for Safe Routes, my goal is to make bicycle-friendly driver mandatory for every junior in Fort Collins every year, so that all these kids that then hit the streets of Fort Collins as drivers are better drivers around cyclists. So yeah, it is graded all the way up so that kids continually learn through our program during their entire school experience.
Thanks. That is pretty cool. Something to strive for across the US, I think. Okay, we have one more question,
I have
right?
a question for KJ.
Oh,
about the
KJ,
one-
this is for you.
So it's about the one-on-one lessons and how financially viable is that? When it's only one person paying for a lesson?
Okay, so the question, did you hear it, KJ?
I did hear that. Well, the financial viability part, I guess I'm curious about. Can you expand on that? What do you mean?
Not like everybody sticks to this, but LCIs have there's a recommended hourly rate that you kind of shoot for. And I can't imagine one person paying that much for 1 hour of instruction when it's just themselves. Usually if you have a handful of students, it makes it financially viable for the instructor, but it just seems kind of hefty for one person to pay.
Sure. So let me go ahead and strip off because I like transparency. So we raised our rates in March of 2023. Since 2016, we've been charging $50 an hour for one-on-one instruction. That was also inclusive of a sliding scale fee that went down to $10 an hour for students who were economically disadvantaged or who needed multiple sessions of learning and one-on-one time. So this year, March 1st, we raised our rates to $60 an hour. That covers a LCI / instructor payment of $30 an hour, which is what we currently pay our instructors. And oh, sorry, the screen just went weird. So as far as classes go, our Learn to Ride classes, they are sliding scale. The Learn to Ride is $10 to $15 suggested donation. That's for 2 hours of learning. And anything more advanced up to and including basic bicycle maintenance skills, that's anywhere from $20 to $35 an hour. And each class gets gimmies. Everybody has a giveaway. Any student that takes a class is also eligible for discounted one-on-one instruction at a later date if they want it. So I don't know if we fall within that. A nonprofit by IRS regulations has to fall under market rates. There are no other places in Nashville that do one-on-one instruction for bicycle learning. Therefore, we are the market. And I feel that this is the closest way that I can get to allowing students who have caregivers or parents who are able to pay more to fund the lessons for those students who have parents or caregivers that cannot afford to pay more.
KJ, what'd you say? Every class has a giveaway?
Oh yeah, we give away stickers, we give away buttons, we give away little smart start guides. We have
Nice.
we have something called like fuzzy foam for our bike maintenance class, so people can spray that on their bikes and clean them. So yeah, everybody gets something more than just our sparkling experiential instruction.
Got it. Cool. Thanks. That answer for you. And just for this is in the LCI handbook, but what we recommend, the league, an hourly rate of $75 an hour. And that also in the same paragraph acknowledges that the US has a broad range of of income levels and cost of living. So that might for you seem very high. In other places, I know it seems very low. So we kind of, you gotta land it somewhere. So that's just a suggested rate. We know there's a wide range that people charge, depending where they are and depending who their target audience is and who they want to serve and the community they're in. So, again. Okay, so any other questions for Tim? I apologize for the people online. Our owl has somehow gone to sleep. So I know I'm just a voice. I'm afraid that if I try and unplug it, I'm gonna.
Off now and then.
All right. I'm gonna try and get your,
Try the other end, it's hard to unplug there.
yeah. Well, it's either gonna be. I don't want to.
Use tech board?
Yeah, oh, okay. The owl.
I just heard the owl's working.
It was, and then it wasn't, and then it was again.
I see the,
Hi, everyone.
Okay, it's back. All right, okay, we got it back. Good suggestion, Jim Barras.
I think quick question for Tim. Is the classes that they are offering in school, during school time or after school?
Okay, great. So we do the, so one of the great, so the participation via the school district and their acceptance is that, we teach in school during school times, and PE teachers devote their PE sessions for, as many sessions as our program is to their cycling. And then sometimes even other special programs will sacrifice their time. So there's for instance, there's a school where the art teacher and the music teacher just sacrifice a day of their programming so that, instead of having just a 45-minute ride session, then we'll have a 90-minute session with these kids over like a 3-day period. So 90 minutes, 3 days in a row. So it's in school, with the participation of the district and the PE teachers.
Recording in progress. Yeah. That's okay. That's okay. All right.
Does that answer your question?
yeah. Did that answer your question? Yeah.
Sorry about that, I was just trying to see the notes people were typing.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Any other question?
There are a couple, but I also need to be mindful of time, it's already 2:08.
Yeah, why don't we move on to, and then we can answer questions afterwards if Jina, depending on how long. Jina talks about insurance, our LCI insurance, which is a huge asset to all certified instructors. So Jina, there you are.
Hello. So I am going to share my screen here. Hopefully.
There you go. Yeah, I see it.
Awesome.
Looks good.
Okay. I'm going to try to move this screen over here for a second and you tell me if that messed anything up.
Okay.
I already did it. So are we good? Okay, thank you.
Nothing changed for us.
Very good. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Jina Doyle. I work at American Specialty. American Specialty has been the insurance and risk management provider for the league for 30 years. So I personally have worked with the league for about 22 years. A lot in the beginning, behind the scenes, and then ultimately kind of work one-on-one with the league. And most of you, if you've worked with the league, know Rene Waterson of our office. She's been here much longer than me. And most of the people, when I speak, they are like, we want to see Rene. We talk to Rene all the time. So my presentation is not as inspirational as either of KJ's or Tim's, but is a big piece of why the LCIs can do what they do because of the insurance protection. So I am going to jump right in here and yep, just give a little bit of an overview of the insurance program. So, and we will talk on the next slide about e-bikes, but wanted to talk first about the liability protection. So when I talk about liability protection, I'm talking about those third-party liability claims against LCIs, right? So think bodily injury, someone is injured at one of your trainings and brings suit against you as an individual. Or property damage liability. Let's say that we're using a parking lot and we somehow, when we leave that area, the sign is ruined. That's property damage liability. Property damage liability is not damage to your bikes, damage to the bikes of those who are coming to your class. And then personal and advertising injury claims. So think libel, slander type claims. So most of the claims that we see under the League's insurance program are bodily injury claims, which makes a lot of sense. At American Specialty, we only work with organizations who specialize in sports, entertainment, or leisure. Oh my goodness, I apologize. Maybe I'm going to blame it on the fact that it's a Sunday and that I somehow forgot after 22 years what our company does. So a lot of times with sports, we see the biggest types of claims being bodily injury claims, right? Someone falls, we've done everything that we can, and as a result, there's a claim. So you as an individual, if someone were to ask you for a certificate of insurance to, as an example, use their parking lot or their facility for your training, this is the policy that they're most interested in. And as an individual, in my opinion, this is the policy that you should be most interested in as well, because this is what protects you as an individual in the event that you're named in a lawsuit while conducting official LCI seminars in compliance with the League's protocols, which we've talked, Alison has touched base on those a couple of times today. So a few years ago, when actually it was probably pre-COVID, we were in DC for the conference, the summit, and some of the feedback that we received from the LCIs is, that's awesome that we automatically have coverage. We don't have to have a certificate of insurance to show that we're covered. We just are automatically covered under the League's insurance program. But what about our LLCs, those LLCs that we've created for the sole purpose of handling payments for bike education seminars? So we went back to the insurance company, and we're not the insurance company. We act as an agent on your behalf. And we said, okay, we need coverage for these LLCs whose really their sole purpose is handling payments for these bike ed seminars, right? So it's not for your LLC that you have for your real estate business or your LLC that you have for any other business or even nonprofit. It is for you if you have created an LLC for those bike education seminars. The LLC is automatically covered as well from liability claims. So that was a great enhancement in my opinion, because now not only are the individuals covered, but the LLC that you've created for that are covered as well. And you're sharing the policy. It's not a separate limit, and that makes a lot of sense, because if they're going to sue you as an individual and the LLC, they're just trying to reach the deepest pockets. So what we're saying is we're just going to combine them both so that we can defend both you as an individual as well as the LLC in the event of a lawsuit. So that's an overview of the liability coverage, that third-party liability coverage protection for you as an individual. Like I said, you do not need a certificate of insurance from our office to have coverage. You are automatically covered if you're an LCI for your LCI seminars. So a certificate of insurance, if you feel better having proof of insurance or somebody wants to see your proof of insurance, absolutely reach out to our team and we will give you a certificate of insurance. But I always just want to let you know that you don't have to have that. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't have a certificate of insurance, what does that mean? That's okay. You still are covered under the policy. In addition to the liability protection, we have excess accident medical coverage for the LCIs. So excess accident medical coverage is designed to help offset the out-of-pocket medical expenses that you might incur as a result of an accidental injury occurring at one of your education seminars for you as an individual, right? So you are helping somebody and somehow you're injured and you have a $5,000 deductible under your health insurance policy. This policy is designed to help offset that out-of-pocket expense for you. So I wanted to talk about class electric bikes. So first of all, what you should know is that there is not a restriction on the policy any longer for the use of class 2 e-bikes. So there's no restrictions for the use of electric bikes as long as they meet the definition of electric bike under the Consumer Product Safety Commission, which is consistent with how the league identifies class or electric bikes. So class 1, class 2, class 3. So by way of background, you might recall, and that's where some of the questions were coming from earlier is, do we have coverage for class 1? Do we have coverage for class 3? When do we have coverage? And what does that mean for people who are bringing electric bikes to my seminar, right? To my education class? Am I still protected under the liability policy? So the insurance company and the insurance industry really has looked at electric bikes. The intent is not to provide coverage for like a moped, but I know those aren't the types of bikes and equipment that you want in your classes either. So what the insurance company had said initially was, okay, we're going to provide coverage for class 1 bikes and we're going to provide coverage for class 3 bikes. But what we don't like about class 2 bikes is that somebody can get on there and they can ride without pedaling. They didn't like that you couldn't have that you could go without using pedal assist. So I would say struggled with that for several years with the insurance company. And, the league, everybody who's happy to have this protection should give a huge shout out to Alison and everyone at the league, because it's something that they did not give up on, right? We know that that's the future of bikes in the United States. We know that they're very common outside the United States. So as a bicycle advocacy organization, it is something that we need coverage for. So in 2022, we were successful at negotiating, I almost said talking the insurance company into, which is really what it was. We were successful at talking the insurance company into removing that class 2 e-bike restriction for LCI seminars only. So the idea was, hey, we have the best of the best out here, teaching the public how to ride bikes. We want to protect them. They are taking the facts that, that there are different circumstances when you're working with an e-bike, right? And we know that our LCI instructors are taking those into consideration. So in 2022, the insurance company said, okay, for all LCIs, we're going to remove the restriction for any class of electric bike, as long as it again meets is truly an electric bike. And then we, in 2023, our main focus for the insurance program, I know this isn't a club seminar, but there's some overlap, so I want to talk about that. We were successful for the February 1st, 2023 insurance program at removing that same restriction for class 2 e-bikes for the clubs as well. So the league's insurance program does not have a restriction on the policy for electric bikes, except for it has to meet the definition of an electric bike. So what does that mean for you as an instructor? If someone comes to your course and they're using an electric bike and you're named in a lawsuit, you have the same protection because they were using the electric bike as you would if they were using a traditional bike. So that is, as Alison said, great news for the league. We don't anticipate a ton of additional claims. That's always the concern. Are we going to see more claims, and what does that do to insurance costs and things like that? But for this group, we should just celebrate the fact that there are not restrictions relative to electric bikes. Now, you as an individual may say, I am not going to allow electric bikes into my education seminar. I don't know anyone who's done that, but I think, Alison can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that folks could reserve the right to do that, although there's a lot of, sponsorship and partnerships with electric bike manufacturers. So that is actually, I ended with electric bikes because that's usually where we have most of our questions. So I will take any questions that you have on the insurance program or on electric bikes or on anything that I didn't cover or any additional questions that you might have. I did include Renee's email address here as well as mine. Please feel free to reach out to Renee or I anytime. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. But from the overall league's insurance program, the LCI coverage is the easiest, in my opinion, because it's automatically provided. The league provides it for you while you're acting on their behalf of educating groups about bicycle safety.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jina. That was great. And I'm really just in admiration of, I don't know, all the information you had. And I heard a lot of, we've learned a lot from each other over the last year, and I see that reflected in the presentation. So I really appreciate putting a lot of thought and effort into this presentation and sharing the information that we've grown over the past year. So we have a couple questions in the room. Jim Barras, you want to ask your question?
Two things. One, we're experiencing out of class or non 1, 2, and 3 class e-bikes. I think the LCI should be aware that there are things being sold which don't meet the class 1, 2, and 3 classification, and those I suspect would not be covered. And we should be careful about accepting them in the classes. And that's just information.
Yeah, that's correct. Let me just, in case people didn't hear that in the virtual audience, Jim Barras in California, the e-bike boom, I think, is bigger in California than most other states in the US, New York too. But California has seen a huge increase in the number of electric bikes in the state. And what Jim pointed out is that there's a lot of bikes being purchased that are outside of the class 1, class 2, class 3 classification. Their throttle, they go faster than 28 miles an hour, and they actually are classified as motorbikes. However, consumers aren't educated in knowing, they think they're buying an e-bike, but they're actually buying a motorbike. So as LCIs, it's really important to know those classifications of e-bikes. If you believe you'll see an e-bike in one of your classes.
The classification is stamped on the frame if it's a classified bike.
It's stamped on the frame?
Yeah, the manufacturer has to put it on the frame.
Supposed to.
Well, they don't keep the law.
Yes. So we had the other comment in the room was that by law, and do you know if it's a CPSC?
It's state by state. People were
Okay.
like, that's a good section on laws for relative to your specific state.
Okay, so it's a state by state law that some states require the manufacturer of the bike to stamp on the bike if it's a class 1 e-bike.
Or 2.
Or whatever classification it is.
Another question.
Okay, so here's Jim's question.
We're experiencing some agencies with facilities that we want to use for a class requesting certificate of insurance for more than $1 million. How should we approach that?
Okay, the question was out of California. Well, Jim's he's here in the room, but he's an LCI in California. They have some facilities that are requesting the general liability insurance cover more than $1 million, which currently LCI liability coverage is up to $1 million. How should they approach that, Jina? Do you have a suggestion?
Yes, you just need to reach out to Rene. We can show the excess liability policy on that certificate of insurance. So it's something that we can, especially at that 2 million, which appears at least on the online chat to be what folks are looking for. So yep, that's something that we can accomplish through the excess policy that's in place.
That'd be additional.
That's not additional money, is it? Like
No.
LCI wouldn't, we just have that excess liability in place.
Correct. Yep. And there was a question on the chat as well, since we're on certificates of insurance, about an online platform for securing certificates of insurance for LCIs. I'm going to take that as a takeaway to chat with Alison about. I think, we have the capability to do that with our clubs. One of the things that we would have to work through is, being able to, right now for our clubs, it's password protected because they purchase coverage. For the LCIs, it's automatic coverage. So we would always want to make sure somehow we would have to have a check that, it's a LCI in good standing with the league. So I'll take it as an action item to look and see if there's anything we can do there, but I appreciate that feedback because we've had a lot of success with online certificates as well.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
That was the one that I was in. Are helmets not required for insurance coverage?
Yeah, Jina, you had helmets are recommended. So do you want to address that or do you want me to?
You go ahead and address it from your perspective, and then I can tell you about the insurance program.
Okay, so from the league's perspective, we want to see helmets on every rider that is in a class. We think it's good practice. Oftentimes it's the legal way, especially if it's a youth class. Most states have laws that require all youths wear helmets. For adults, we think it's good practice and we want it to be something that you're teaching, and it's included in the waiver that students are supposed to sign or are required to sign.
So from an insurance perspective, what I would add is that our goal is also, to Alison's point, for everyone to have a helmet on. We currently don't have the requirement under the insurance program, and that's by design, because we don't want to put an LCI in a position where if someone was not in a helmet and then you were sued, that there wouldn't be coverage. So the idea is that everybody will have a helmet on, but the insurance policy, if someone slips through the cracks or helmets aren't being worn, you would still have protection as an LCI. But definitely from a risk management perspective, we couldn't agree more.
Yeah, thank you.
That's just 2 minutes left.
Oh, yeah. 2 minutes left. Yeah, we have 2 minutes left. Boy, this is great timing. Okay, we have one more question in the room.
Well, I actually have 2 questions.
Okay,
First,
2
is
questions.
The electric bike is a regular bike that had a motor added to it. Are those also stamped with whether they're 1, 2, or 3, or do I just have to take the guy's word for it?
Talking about whole lot.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know one of the shops locally that is doing a big
Yeah,
business on converting trikes to electric, so I have no idea.
all right, and another thing is insurance. If I just want to list a private session for like people in bike club or one-on-one, is that covered? I'm sorry if I missed this. Is
Yeah.
that covered by the insurance? Do I have to make a special request, or just as long as I follow the curriculum and rules, it would be covered?
Right, so what the league guidelines in terms of being covered under the insurance is that the class is publicly posted. So I get a lot of questions about, well, I offer this scheduling service and people sign up. Do I have to post that on the Connect Locally map and through the LCI portal? You don't have to post every one-on-one class, but what we want you to post is that you're offering one-on-one class service and a link to your website where you're offering it, so that there's some sort of schedule that we have, we can document was that the class was happening. Does that answer your question? Okay. We got a lot of questions like that. So it's 2:30 and I just want to give a big shout out to our speakers, to Jina, Doyle, to KJ, Garner, and to Tim Hahn. Thank you so much for your time. Jina, please give our best to Rene. I know everyone always likes to say hi to Rene, so we give her our best and are hoping to see her, and we look forward to hearing from her. And I appreciate everyone online and here at the National Bike Summit. If you want, we have this session being replicated again at 3 o'clock. We'll have 2 different LCI speaking. My presentation will be the same and Gina's will be the same. So join if you want to hear from additional LCIs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.